Welcome everybody to today's webinar, More Killer Ideas for Delivering Successful Projects. This is the second in a two-part series. The first webinar, Killer Ideas for Delivering Successful Projects, was delivered 2 weeks ago. This is part two, More Killer Ideas. If you're hearing this live, excellent. So this is the second in the series from 2 weeks ago. If you're listening to the recording on YouTube, you will see the earlier video probably just above this one or near this one on the page. This is the part two of that session. These ideas were taken from the book, Over 50 Killer Ideas for Delivering Successful Projects, created by Richard Morreale. The late Richard Morreale was a brilliant man. I knew him well. So my name's Kevin Aguanno. I'll be your host for today. I am a classically trained project manager with all kinds of certifications for traditional project management and agile project management. I've written over 30 books on agile related topics. I've been teaching agile at the university level for many years, and I've received numerous awards and accolades for my work. Many of you might know me through some of my writing or speeches or past training or my popular YouTube videos. So I look forward to any feedback. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to stay in touch. So that's a little bit about me. Let me tell you a little bit about Richard. Richard Morreale, I knew him. He was a brilliant project manager, very senior level project manager. He initially started his work with the US government and then moved over to the UK. So he started with the US government in Washington, D.C. on some rather classified projects. Quickly jumped in, also some finance projects for banking as well. He had some in his career. Then he jumped over to NASA and worked on the Apollo space program. So he started as a project control officer and worked his way up in the project, and I think he originally was a messenger boy, I think, and then worked his way up to be a project control officer in the program, and was active in managing part of the project that put a man to the moon and got him back safely again. So that was one of his claims to fame. Then he went over to the UK and did some brilliant work computerizing the entire UK tax system, from being a paper-based system to allowing people to file their taxes via computer and online. Did some major work for US policing, computerizing some of their major operational systems, and many more. Huge, brilliant projects, a very inspiring speaker. Unfortunately, Jake passed away not too long ago, and it's sad to see him go. Anyway, as the publisher of his book, I thought we'd not let it go to waste, and we will highlight some of his writings. We started with the first session in this series, which was some of the segments, extracts from his book, Killer Ideas. So here's more killer ideas, and we're going to proceed with some of these. Continuing on from where we left off last session, avoid dangling activities. What does that mean? Make sure that all the activities in your project plan, make sure are focused on creating a deliverable product. Don't do activities just for the sake of doing them, or that's how you usually do things. These are steps that you normally take in a project. Every activity in your work breakdown structure, every activity on the project should be directly tied to creating a deliverable. And as we talked about last time, all deliverables should be directly tied to the business case, right? The business case describes why we're doing this project, right? There's certain business benefits we're looking for, and every business benefit is achieved through project deliverables. This deliverable will increase revenues. This other deliverable will save time and money. This other deliverable will improve community satisfaction. There's whatever your metrics are, there's deliverables that are creating that. So it's the deliverables that are the goal of the project. They create the business value, the business case value, but those deliverables are created through a number of steps. So every activity should have clear traceability through the deliverables all the way up to the business case benefits that you're looking for. And if there's any activities that can't be traced back directly to a deliverable, then maybe you should think about either dropping the activity because it doesn't appear to be necessary, or maybe you missed a deliverable. That's certainly something that should be looked into, but certainly avoid activities that are just stranded on their own and can't be traced backwards. Okay, next one. That was number 26. Number 27, involve the project team as much as possible in the planning process. Involve the project team as much as possible in the planning process. If the project manager should not be building the plan in isolation, because the team members know where efficiencies lie, they know where risks are, they know they're the ones providing the estimates and the steps and how they want to get the work done. Maybe there's new techniques, maybe there's workarounds that they're aware of that you may not be as the project manager. So the team has to be involved in providing at least the steps, the activities, the estimates, but also in prioritization and other creative aspects as well. Making sure they're heavily involved certainly ensures you don't miss anything and helps gain commitment from the team in the plan. You want buy-in. The plan isn't something that should be forced on them. It's something that they should be eagerly anticipating and eagerly wanting to support because they see their role and how they can contribute to success. Next, base all of your plans on deliverables, right? So don't plan based on tasks. Start with a deliverable-based plan. Your planning should start by scheduling the deliverables, and only later do you schedule the tasks. Agile does this perfectly. Agile project management creates something called the release plan, which is a high-level project plan that's a deliverable-based plan, so we can get the high-level picture. The detailed plan happens later just in time in an iteration plan or a sprint plan, just for the upcoming few weeks, the upcoming iteration. PMI, the Project Management Institute, has had this for years for incremental type projects, and this is called rolling wave planning. You have a high-level plan that's deliverable based for the whole project. The detailed plans on how are you going to build a set of deliverables happen just in time. Before you build the next set of deliverables, come up with a plan on how you're going to do so. This allows us to take advantage of lessons learned as we go through the project. So the lessons learned from phase one can be used to better plan phase two, right? Helps us also stay focused on the business case. If we do task-based planning, sometimes we get lost in the weeds. There's a mountain of tasks, and we just get lost in dealing with all these tasks, so much so that we lose the big picture. We might actually miss a deliverable. And realistically, the business doesn't care about the tasks. Most business sponsors don't want to know how you're doing the work or who's doing the work. That's too much information for them. What they want to know are deliverable-based information. They want to know, when is my favorite feature going to get done? When is this deliverable going to get done? How many deliverables and which deliverables will we get done by the end of the quarter? Because maybe there's a regulatory deadline or a certain quantity of information needs to be done to satisfy some investors. There may be dependencies on other projects. Other projects might be dependent on something your project is producing, and they need to know when that's going to be done. Well, those dependencies happen at the deliverable level, not the task level, but at the deliverable level. So those other projects want to know, when is that deliverable going to be done that they are going to consume as part of their project so they can finish up their planning. So interdependencies between projects are deliverable based. We don't want to get caught up on all the tasks. So build your plan based on deliverables. That's number 28. Number 29, if at all possible, make sure your team is co-located. Co-location means working together in one work environment. Sometimes this is called a war room. It's an old term that's used. The idea is everybody's working together in one room, in one work location. And if we can work together like that, we drive tremendous efficiencies. Think about it. If somebody's working in another building, now all of a sudden we got to communicate via documents of some kind, right? We're going to send them an email, and it'll take maybe hours or a day or two till they see the email and they respond to it. It's going to slow the project right down. The same thing happens if you're dealing with people on the other side of the world. you're going to be emailing them, or you're going to be sending them documents, and they might misunderstand those documents because they're losing the full bandwidth of your communications. They have your words only. They're losing the 70% of the nonverbal communication that they can't get via emails and documents, right? So it's so easy to misinterpret something. So if somebody's working at the other side of the world from me on a project and I send them a document via email with some instructions, it could very easily be misunderstood or misinterpreted because they've lost my tone of voice, they've lost my facial expressions, they've lost my body language, right? So it's so much easier to have those face-to-face communications to be so much more efficient. That's one of the reasons why so many companies that initially started outsourcing a lot of, for example, their IT services to India, because it's cheaper than doing those, having those resources in North America, they thought they'd save money. But projects started taking longer, and there were a lot more misunderstandings and failures because of how hard it is to communicate via email and documents effectively when you don't have those personal communications. So the suggestion is be co-located if you can. These organizations now are repatriating some of their offshore resources so they can have those face-to-face meetings and improve their project success rates. If you have the meetings face-to-face, people can interrupt and ask questions, point and gesture, draw things on a whiteboard to clarify points. You can much more rapidly come to an understanding. And a communication verbally face-to-face can happen very quickly, whereas it may take hours to document everything that you might have said in an email and a Word doc. You may have to actually spend hours documenting all that to the point where it's understandable by an independent third party. Whereas if you could just have a quick discussion, it could be resolved very quickly. So it speeds up the project to be face-to-face. It reduces waste on creating documentation that could have been more effectively, information that could have been more effectively communicated another way. It also helps build more teaming. Team members will feel more motivated, passionate, committed, helpful. They feel there's shared responsibility, and we can celebrate success better when we're working together as a group rather than over email, what have you. Now, recognize that in today's day and age, we're doing a lot of remote working. People are working from home, working from multiple work sites, but use the tools we have available to us. Desktop video conferencing via Skype and Zoom and WebEx and tools like that. Using desktop screen sharing, digital whiteboards. There's so many tools that we can use remotely that help us have that face-to-face experience that will allow us to communicate much more effectively. Number 30, establish and use a project board or steering committee. So get together a group of key stakeholders. This could include representatives of the project team, one or two senior representatives from the project team, maybe a client representative, maybe some end user representatives. Put them together on this project steering board or steering committee that provides direction to the project, some decision making over the project to make sure you got the right input, that you're doing the right thing, you're going in the right direction. And they can help you in many, many ways. And I'll talk about that a bit later. But make sure you got the right people on there. You want people who have authority, who can make those decisions. Make sure they're committed to project success. This is not just one of 15 projects they're sponsoring and they have to be here because it's part of their job, but they're there reluctantly. That's not going to be an effective person on the steering committee. Make sure you got people who are action-oriented, they're committed, and they feel ownership of the project. Then you're going to get some real decisive assistance for the project itself. So that's number 30, establish and use a project board or steering committee. Number 31, it's not just the committee members that need to be the right people, but make sure you have the right sponsor as well. The sponsor is probably one of the members of the project board, but they have to be somebody who's passionate and takes ownership of the project. This is the single point of authority, probably delegated by the project steering committee to make day-to-day decisions on the project within a sphere of delegation, within certain levels of authority. They can make some decisions on the project. These are people who will who will give their all to make this project successful. And in fact, their personal performance review is probably going to be affected by the success or failure of this project. That's how you know you got the right person. They got, as they say, skin in the game. Number 32, establish an independent testing team. Don't let people who build stuff review their own work or even review each other's work, right? Do peer reviews. I mean, that's a good thing to do some peer reviews, but I would also make sure we have an independent set of testers as well, because they have a different mentality. The people who are helping create something or build something get caught up in what they were aiming to do, what the goal was, right? To prove that they solved the problem. The kind of testing they do is usually positive verification tests. So I was supposed to create a piece of software that would calculate shipping costs correctly for this scenario. Let's create a couple tests to show that indeed the shipping costs are calculated correctly. That's how they're thinking. They're problem solvers. They're creative personality types. So they're looking to prove that the creation or problem solving was successful. That tends to be the kind of test cases they create. But what you're looking for is somebody with a tester mindset. And that's not positive verification. That's usually destructive testing. Or you might even call it a hacker mindset, which is, I don't care how much you say this thing is perfect, I'm sure I can find a way to break it or trick it or get around it, right? So those kinds of tester mindsets are really good at finding creative ways of breaking the solution. And that's how you end up with a better quality solution. Those independent testers who don't have that vested interest in proving that it succeeded, their motivation is, see if I can make it fail. And that's how you end up with better solutions and higher quality overall. Number 33. Now this one's linked to some other upcoming killer ideas. But this introduces it. Establish a project support office. What is that? That's like an administrative function supporting the project manager. Project managers often get bogged down in administrative work that could be handled better by a cheaper resource, somebody who's paid less money, so that the project manager can devote their time to doing more value-added activities, working with the team, negotiating with stakeholders, solving problems, not reviewing and approving timesheets and compiling financial reports. That kind of stuff could be handled by an assistant, a project support office. Now, on a small project, there may not be a budget to have a project support person, so the project manager may get stuck at doing the whole thing themselves. But if your project's a little bit larger, you should be able to free up some resource, some time and money to put this in place. In fact, on large projects that I run, the big projects, I try to take 5 to 10% of the labor budget and put it into these support roles so that the people that are higher paid can focus on more value-added activities. Now, we're going to talk about specific support activities this project support office can do a little bit later in this presentation. Number 34, Richard says, remember the three amigos. Amigo is Spanish for friend. The three amigos, the project manager, the technical lead, could be a lead engineer, a lead technical designer, somebody, right? A technical lead, and the project support lead, the lead of the project support team, if there is a team, or just the project support officer if there's just one. These three should be joined at the hip. They should be working together closely throughout the project. The project manager makes the management decisions. They may not have technical expertise in the area of the project. That might be okay, because a good technical lead will provide their technical conscience and their technical advice. And the project support lead will give them the latest available data to make good decisions and will support in executing those decisions that are made. I've run projects completely outside of my area of comfort. I spent a lot of my career in the software development field, and I have a background, a fairly significant background in software development. But I've also worked on organizational change, business process transformation, mergers and acquisitions. I've worked on construction projects, both large data centers, visitor centers, and also a residential home building. I've worked in construction. I've worked in high-tech manufacturing. I've worked in engineering and defense industries. I've worked across pharmaceutical projects. I've worked on all kinds of projects, and the way how I get away with that is I don't have to be an expert in any of those industries. I have a really strong technical lead that I appoint on my project, and I make them my best friend. They work with me closely to make sure that all the decisions and advice and everything that I'm getting, I understand. I understand the impacts, and the decisions and advice that I'm making are technically sound as well. So that's the sidekick, the three amigos, right? The technical lead will be there, and the project support lead, as I said, to make sure I'm making my decisions based on current information, and so that I can also make sure that the information that I am delivering is accurate based on current standards and changes, and make sure my decisions are implemented. So that is the role of these three amigos. Next, establish a personal development plan, number 35. A personal development plan. What is that? A personal development plan is for the soft skills, because as Richard noted, 80% of project management success comes from soft skills. A recent PMI study, I think, valued it at 80, even higher. I think it was 86% of project management success comes from soft skills, not from the technical or hard skills like scheduling and risk management. It comes from the behaviors and traits and soft skills that a project manager represents, like creative problem solving, presentation skills, persuasiveness, negotiation skills, etc., leadership skills. So identify the skills and behaviors that you need. Maybe do a self-scoring on them, ranking them, and figuring out which ones you need to develop. Create a plan to develop them, and then execute that plan. Actually take action, read books, take courses, build your skills as a project manager, and that will make you far more successful. Number 36, when you create documents and get them approved, don't do it just via email. Actually get signatures on hard copies of key documents, whether it's not just contracts, but the scope statement, the risk management plan, the schedule, the budgets. Get hard copy signatures on them. It gives you an excuse to get in front of the stakeholders and build your relationship more tightly with these senior people. And if they have to actually put pen to paper, to them, the approval feels more real, more legally binding, more official. So you're going to spend a little bit more time making sure that they're approving the right stuff, making sure it is appropriate, and then celebrate the signing. Celebrate the signing. I've taken people out to lunch afterwards. I've brought a bottle of champagne and cracked it open afterwards for the signing of a major contract or a big deal. Obviously, respect your alcohol in the workplace policies. You don't want to get in trouble for that. But there's certainly opportunities for celebrating in various ways, and take advantage when you can. Number 37, make sure your client understands how much time they have to devote to the project. Include it in your plan. Put the client or sponsor or stakeholder activities in the plan. They're going to be involved in things like requirements gathering, defining acceptance criteria. There's going to be lots of documents they're going to have to review and provide feedback on and approve. They're going to be involved at the end of the project, reviewing and accepting the final deliverables. Put all that stuff in the plan. Document them as a resource to the project, and calculate how many hours they need and the timing of those hours, so they can understand what's required of them and their level of commitment. They can plan around that, so there's no surprises later on. Number 38, keep the schedule tight but realistic, right? Tight but achievable. Don't give people a schedule that has too much contingency or too much buffer, or what's going to happen is that contingency will get wasted and you will be inefficient. We need to avoid something called Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law is about the impact that stress and pressure have on our performance as human beings. With no stress or no pressure, we tend to perform at a lower level. So if I asked you how long it would take you to do some work, and you said 2 to 5 days, if I put 5 days on the plan, you're thinking, wow, I got 5 days. I mean, I could do it in as little as 2, but I got 5. So I'm going to work at a more relaxed, leisurely pace. The project's going to take longer. Your work effort expands to fill the time available, right? So if I give you lots of contingency, magically people tend to use that contingency. So to avoid Parkinson's law, we do something a little bit different, sometimes called critical chain estimating and planning, takes advantage of this as well. Keep the schedule tight, very tight. Strip out some of that contingency, manage it separately in a separate pool, and schedule a very tight but possible schedule and try and hold people to that. They're going to now start with, okay, I said 2 to 5 days. Oh my gosh, they put 2 on the schedule. 2 days, only 2 days. Wow, okay, let's get focused. Let's get productive. I'm working with a sense of urgency and a sense of panic because I'm not sure if I have enough time, right? So I'm going to work much more diligently, and my productivity rate will go way up, trying to work towards that achievable but tighter schedule. So strip out the contingency, manage it separately, keep the team on a tight leash, and they will perform better. That's number 38. Number 39, take massive action. Be very decisive, move very quickly, work hard towards getting the project plan done, but only the activities that are on the plan, right? Remember, we only include activities that are directly related to creating deliverables. Don't work on stuff, busy work. Don't get really, really busy with multitasking and responding to other people's needs and not dealing with the ones that you've prioritized on the plan, right? Stick to the plan. If the new task that has appeared is important enough, then get it approved and added to the plan. Maybe you need to add a task or add a deliverable, right? Get appropriate sign-off from the project steering committee, perhaps, if that's necessary. If it's important enough, it should be on the plan. Don't do anything that's not on the plan. Number 40, Richard said, use success words. Success words. Be very careful about hedging how you describe things. So one time I was in a project meeting and the client was talking to me about a piece of work that they wanted. And they said, can you get this done? And I started hedging myself. I was like, well, possibly if everything is aligned and if all the right people do this and that, then possibly I can work towards it and see if we might be able to achieve it. There's so much wiggle room, or some people call it weasel words, weaseling out of the commitment in that phrase. I've lost confidence, right, with the client. They have no confidence that we're going to be able to achieve it. Instead, use success words. Yes, we can achieve that. There are some preconditions, but yes, it is doable. We can do it with the right supports. We will achieve this. Create that sense of success. Also, even just some of the words that we use in general, like talking about progress reports or project status reports. You know, saying I've made progress towards something, but I never actually finished it could be, is deceiving. I was in a project one time that was being canceled, and the sponsor said to the team, after he announced it was being canceled, he said, you guys said you're about 30% complete, right? And I said, yeah, we're about 30% complete. He said, okay, give me the 30% of the stuff that's done. Maybe I can make some use of it on another project, so this isn't a total waste. The team kind of looks at each other nervously, says, come on, where's the 30%? Somebody comes up and hands him some requirements and design documents. And he's looking at this. He says, what is this? And they said, those are the requirements and design. Now, in this case, it was a software development project. He said, where's the software? And they said, well, there isn't any software yet. This was we were at 30% complete. We were just finishing the design phase. We completed the requirements phase. We completed the design phase. This was a waterfall type project. And they said, we haven't actually started writing any software yet. The sponsor got upset. He took those the binder with those documents. He threw it across the room. It hit the wall. It burst open. Papers were flying everywhere. And he said, "You lied to me." And they said, "No, we didn't. You lied. You said you were 30% complete." And I said, "Well, we were." He says, "You're not 30% complete. You're 0% complete because you've delivered zero business value. You've made zero achievements of any of my business goals." So here's a difference, right? The team was measuring progress towards the goals. The business cares about the goals themselves. I don't care that you're completed 30% of the work hours that you have to do to get business value created. I care about when is that business value done so I can start using it. So let's talk the same language as the business, measure the same things, and let's talk about achievements, not progress. It's a more positive spin on it. Not, well, I'm making progress, but I haven't gotten anything done yet. You can say, no, here are the things we've achieved. Here's the benefits we've achieved. Here's the deliverables we've achieved. Talk about achievement meetings, not status meetings. That's a more positive spin on things and probably will get more support and energy from the team. Next, number 41, create effective project controls and then follow them, right? Richard Morreale said, be creative in setting up the control procedures, be efficient, effective, creative, but be bureaucratic in following them. Make sure you always follow those procedures, not the other way around. Don't create overly bureaucratic controls and then try to be creative in finding workarounds because they're too inefficient, right? The goal, be creative to create effectiveness plus efficiency, right? So create project controls that are effective but efficient, and be creative in that because every project's a little bit different. One size does not always fit all situations. So adapt them to what works for you. Understanding that sometimes there are governance requirements within your organization that will force certain project controls on you. Number 42, use your project support office. We talked about them earlier. Use the project support office to assist you with planning and monitoring how you're doing. Why? Well, because they're cheaper and they free the project manager up from these administrative type activities so they can focus on more important things like problem solving and negotiations and working with vendors and things that probably have a bigger impact on project success. The project support office can handle reporting weekly achievements, so your status reports or your achievement reports, updating your project plan to show what has actually been completed, chasing people down to get their new estimates and their performance and percent, helping identify how we could fix slipping activities that are falling behind schedule. Maybe the project support office will have some creative ideas on how to solve those problems. The project support office should present the updated plan, any challenges that the project is facing, and any possible solutions to the PM so the PM can make decisions and take actions as necessary. And once the plan has been updated, the project support office can make sure it's distributed to all the appropriate stakeholders. So these are things that are largely administrative in nature that the support office can take off the PM's plate so the PM can focus on the really important stuff. Number 43, use the project support office to also assist in reporting achievement. We mentioned that briefly. Make sure the achievement is plan-based. So stick to the plan. Everything should be based on the signed off plan. So if the plan says we're going to have these 3 deliverables completed this quarter, track how, we're getting halfway through the quarter. How many deliverables have been completed yet? None. Well, don't make up fake achievements to try and make it look good. The reality is none of those deliverables are complete yet. You can say we're making progress towards them, but we have no achievements yet. Once you have gotten one of those deliverables done, then you can celebrate that. And you can say, yay, we got one of them achieved. Excellent. The others we're expecting to have achieved next week or 2 weeks from now, right? So measure and track against achievements tied to the plan. I find it really good if project status reports don't have a lot of words in them. They have a lot of pictures, tables with data, graphs, charts, things like that, dates. Here are 5 deliverables. here's the plan date, and here's the date they were actually either achieved or the forecast date when they will be achieved. Stuff like that is very helpful to see if we're on track or behind. The more words you start putting in, I find they're usually excuses, right? Why you didn't hit the dates, why these risks are here, why. We don't need all the excuses. Usually just focus on diagrams, charts, graphs, numbers, data. That's the stuff that usually we put in the status reports themselves. You should not have a 16-page project status report. I'm thinking a 1 or 2 page summary is usually good enough for my clients. Next, number 44, use the project support office to assist in the change control process. Again, this can get burdensome. I was on a project one time. It was a little waterfall project. Turned out to be a high change waterfall project. And by the end, it was 3 months long. We had 103 change requests that came through the project team. The job of the project manager almost got bogged down just processing and tracking all these change requests. That's something where a project support office can come into play. They can log the change requests, coordinate with the team to understand the impact and document the impact of those change requests, prepare that assessment, that impact assessment, the cost assessment, and for the project board so they can review, or the change control board, so they can review and approve those changes, accept the changes or not based on their impacts, and then document the board's decisions and get them out to the team. That's stuff that can be taken off, administrative activities that can be taken off the project manager's hands and given to these assistants. Number 45, use the project support office to assist in reviewing, approving, and managing documents. Projects produce a lot of documents, whether paper or electronic. We're producing lots of documents, and it's easy to have conflicts and confusion around version control. People editing the wrong version of a document or working with the old version. They didn't know there was a newer version, so they're working off outdated information. So fix the problem. Get your project support office to maintain the document library for the project. They keep all the old versions, but they also keep all the latest versions and will distribute the latest versions of documents upon request to appropriate team members and stakeholders. They maintain version control. They know which versions should be circulated and which ones are no longer approved or out of date or deprecated, right? And they should keep the official signed off versions of all these documents. So later when there's an audit, or if there's a court case, a claim made later, we can easily access the official approved signed off versions of these documents to help defend against any of these claims. Number 46, use the project support office to assist in dependency management. Often our projects are dependent on other projects, right? We're waiting for them to provide us information or deliverables, or we are providing information and deliverables to other projects. Monitoring the status of these other projects is usually out, the project managers are too busy to do this, right? They're busy just trying to get the regular project management work done. This is something that could be offloaded to a project support office to look at these external dependencies and regularly get status updates on these external dependencies, or provide status updates so everybody's interlinked and in the know. So there's no surprises either from the team or coming into the team. Number 47, use the project support office to help with risk and issue management. So once we've done risk identification, and once we've done risk response planning, and we have contingent responses planned, etc., and all that work is done, that which is, by the way, a very key responsibility of a project manager, somebody has to monitor to see if these risks ever materialize. Because if they start to show up, we have these contingency plans that will kick into place. So there may be activities that we have to do in case this risk starts to occur. So say the weather is forecasting a hurricane coming. we have a plan to fill sandbags and get some pumps and a generator going. And so somebody has to go out and start getting the sandbags and start placing them and start procuring extra gas for the generator. These are activities that will kick off if the risk event starts to materialize. So somebody has to monitor for the existence of these risk triggers, or triggering events, we call them, right? And that's usually an ongoing surveillance activity. That's something that could be easily offset to a project support office, because the project managers often are too busy and won't be looking for those things. They have real issues to deal with. They won't be looking for potential future issues. So whether it's an issue or a risk, help the project support office monitor for those as they occur. Number 48, add value to your weekly achievement meetings. Maybe these weekly status meetings or weekly project team meetings. Add value to those meetings. Find ways of making it useful for people to go in for those meetings. They're not just attending because they have to. It's something everybody's expected to, because you're going to find a lot of non-compliance, right? People are going to feel that any excuse that they can get to get out of that meeting is going to, they're going to exercise that excuse. Oh, I've got a deadline coming up. The deliverables due later. I don't have time. My boss asked me to do something else and I got to get that done for them. They're going to find excuses not to attend those meetings. So make the meetings fun, make them interesting, make it so that they don't want to miss it. They want to attend. So something you could do is maybe have your technical lead do a technology briefing each meeting. So at the end of the meeting, for a few minutes, they do a brief presentation on some new emerging technology that the team might find fascinating or interesting, or maybe a little how-to on using some features of the tools that you're already using that people might not be familiar with. Another, get your CEO or senior executive to come in and give some insights on changes in the business and the business's strategy and the direction they're taking. That might be interesting to team members. Or if you're building a project for a particular client, why not have the client come in at the end of the meeting and talk about how the solution is going to impact their business operations and how important it is to them, and inspire the team a little bit. There's lots of opportunities here to have these additional elements in your weekly meetings. Next, number 49, insulate the project team. One of the key jobs of a project manager is to shield the team from outside interference. Let the team members be focused internally on getting those deliverables built. Now, if there could be outside political interference, there could be arguments among stakeholders, there could be interruptions, there could be even other business activities pulling them away from their work. I regularly ask my team members, is there anything going to be preventing you from meeting your commitments for this project, as a regular item, agenda item on our meetings? And I hear back things like, yeah, sorry, I know we got a deliverable coming on Friday, but there's this town hall meeting that we're all supposed to attend. Well, I can hear that. And I say, well, hang on a sec. An all-employee town hall, let me see. That sounds like some big generalist thing. I'm going to approach the project control board, or maybe even your boss or a senior executive, and say, look, this team is working towards a very tight deadline. We're having a hard time staying on track. Attending this meeting is going to make us late. We're going to miss the delivery. Is there a chance that we can exempt these few people from attending that meeting? And often they might say, yeah, sure, you got a good reason, I'll approve that. And now you're exempt from something, or we'll watch the recording later or read the minutes of the meeting. There may be ways of getting out from some of those outside interference items, right? So the project board may be able to assist if there's escalations that are needed and things like that, but look for ways of protecting the project team from people that are either asking them to do extra work, that are pulling them in different directions, that are changing their minds on them, et cetera, et cetera. The PM should be there to protect the team from the impacts of all of that chaos. And lastly, the last one we're going to talk about, number 50, appoint a minister of fun. What's a minister of fun? Well, Richard told me a story about the mayor of Baltimore, Maryland, years ago, appointed somebody in their government to be a minister of fun, to find out fun things to do in the municipality that could maybe build community engagement and maybe even generate some revenue for them at the same time. And one of the things that they did was they had a Love Your Pothole Valentine's Day campaign. What is that? That people for a small fee, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was $25 or $5 if you're elderly. For a small fee, you could have a pothole named after your loved one. So the city would come in and fill your pothole, paint after it's filled in. They would paint a heart on it and put the person's name on the heart, and then they would take a picture of it and send that to you along with the address of the pothole, so your loved one can go and visit the pothole that was named in honor of your love for them. It was a hilarious campaign. They got tremendous uptake, and essentially the public paid extra to fill all these potholes and had fun while doing it, right? So the idea is find fun things to do with your team, because projects can be very stressful. Try to make them fun at the same time. So here's some examples that I've used on past projects. And I often do this as part of the project, the regular project achievement meetings, right? Our meeting can go 15, 20 minutes, and then we have another few minutes of fun at the end. So a show and tell. So have a team member, they take turns, can show a brief presentation about a hobby or something interesting that they found outside of work that they can present at an achievement meeting. And we get to learn a little bit about each other and learn some fascinating things. Another one was name that project. Have a contest where the team members can name the project, give it a funny name, right? And they'd have a contest for that, and the winner with the best name, gets a prize. We had a baby picture day, right? So everybody brings in their baby pictures, and we put them up on a board, and people have to match the baby picture with the name of the adult who that is, and the one who gets the most correct gets a point or gets a prize or something like that. So that could be kind of fun. Even had a juggler day. So, team members are always juggling multiple priorities. So why don't we bring in a professional juggler and teach the team how to juggle 3 balls? And so we had a juggler come in and actually spend, I think it was about 40 minutes teaching the team how to juggle. And we ended our team meeting a bit early, and we finished up the rest of the hour learning how to juggle, which was kind of fun. People love working on my project teams because we look for these ways to celebrate, these ways to have fun, the ways to engage each other. And it builds a lot of team building, and it creates a lot of team building opportunities and really building that sense of belongingness that really help make high performance teams. That's it. That was the 50 ways between these 2 webinars, the 50 killer ideas for delivering successful projects from Richard Morreale. I'd like you to stay tuned for our next webinar. We run these roughly every 2 weeks. The next one in Q1 2023 is on February 8th at noon. It's called Expert Retrospectives, Project and Program Lessons from the Development of Ferrari World. This is presented by Phil Richardson, one of the world's top project managers in charge of building some absolutely iconic buildings in countries all around the world. Middle East, Far East, in North America, just fascinating stories. This one's about the Ferrari World development, which is in the United Arab Emirates. And at one point, it was voted the world's best theme park. So find out more about the lessons learned from this massive development project in the billions of dollars from the guy at the head of it all who built the project, Phil Richardson. Should be a fascinating story. I believe there's even a video maybe included in his webinar. So stay tuned for that one. Wherever you found out about this webinar is where you'll be able to find out about the registration link for the February 8th webinar. And that's at noon Eastern time, at 12 noon Eastern time. That's Toronto or New York time. Excellent. Thank you very much for all your time. We'll now open this for some questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? You can type them into the chat or questions interface windows, or you can just click your raised hand icon, and I might be able to unmute your line, and you can ask your question directly. Does anybody have a question about any of the tips that we talked about in this session? just go ahead, type it in the chat window or the questions window. If you're watching this via the YouTube recording that will be posted later, sorry you can't ask questions, but you can email me at the email address showing on the screen right now, and I will answer your questions offline if that works best for you. Marcel asks, is there any rhyme or reason or order to these tips? Not that I could figure out. I looked at them and thought, is there a way of grouping them or clustering them by topic? But they were kind of all over the map. So I don't think there was any particular order to them. No, sorry. I don't think they were in order of priority either, because I saw some really important ones buried a little bit later in the list. Okay. Thank you, Mohammed. That was nice. Mohammed was saying this is a really great presentation. Thank you. Sandra, can you reword that? I can't. I don't understand what you're saying. Do you want to try rewording that, please, Sandra? Well, Sandra's rewording her question. I'm assuming Sandra's a her. Please just type your questions in the chat window or the questions tab on the web interface. Sandra asks, do these apply on agile and non-agile projects equally, or are some of these better aligned with waterfall projects versus agile? Okay, thank you, Sandra. That's clear. You know, I've been in the agile community since the 90s, before we even called this stuff agile. And honestly, I don't see a lot of differences in project management best practices between agile and waterfall. Best practices are still best practices. If you're on a waterfall project, the project management practices are, you know, structured in when they occur and how they occur. Agile still does the same stuff, maybe a bit differently. The timing might be a bit different, or we do it at a different layer of abstraction. Maybe do a high level pass first and then the detailed pass later. Think about my project plan, right? Instead of a detailed 8,000 task project plan for the entire project that we would get in waterfall, we still do a work breakdown structure and project planning in Gantt charts if you want. On agile projects, we just do a high-level release plan first, which is that rolling wave planning concept, and the detailed iteration plans just in time, and that's that rolling wave planning concept that PMI has been talking about for so long. So we still build the detailed plans, they're just done one iteration at a time, just for the scope of work for that iteration. Because the team still needs to coordinate. They still need to understand who's doing what when for complex pieces of work. Yeah, they can be self-organizing. They can build that plan themselves rather than having it forced on them. But we still should probably have some kind of a plan to help sort that out. So yeah, I think most, if not all of these killer ideas would apply probably on waterfall and agile projects equally. That's my thinking, without going through the list and thinking about them one by one. I think just in general, yeah, I think they're applicable in both scenarios. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? Hillary's asking, can I get a copy of the presentation? Actually, even better, why don't you go to Amazon and get a copy of Richard's book? The proceeds go to his estate. I'm sure his family would love that as a memorial to see that his book is still selling copies. So go to Amazon.com and look for Richard Morreale's book. It's called Over 50 Killer Ideas for Delivering Successful Projects. And it has each of these ideas and more detail and stories from his work life about where these stories came from, how he implemented them, success and failure stories. You'll find the book an easy read and a fun read. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce your name properly. It looks like question. question you asked, can I see the upcoming slide, the upcoming webinar again? So here it is, February 8th, 2023 at noon Eastern time. You can find out about it where you found out about this webinar. And if you didn't, if you're not sure how you found out about this one, go to procept.com. Just look at my email address for the spelling, procept.com. And on the home page, there'll be an events calendar. You can find it there. We're pretty much out of time right now. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I appreciate it. You can claim 1 hour of professional development credits for this. So if you're a PMI PMP, you can claim 1 PDU for attending this session. And if you have any questions about that, just reach out to me. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.